Welcome, everybody, to the news segment, April 22nd, 2022. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. If you're listening via the podcast, of course, you can check out the video over at our YouTube page, youtube.com/BetterOnDraft. Check out plenty of our previous videos, including our most recent interview with James Boyd over at the World Expo of Beer. Let's go around and see what everyone is drinking, starting with Daniel.
Hey, still working on that Bud Light Next. And got me some more Stoli Blueberry and Soda.
Robert, what about you?
For me, right now, I've got a Pine Trail Pale from Big Drop Brewing. There's another NA.
Wendy?
So since we just spoke with the JCs, I have a Sun King Technicolor Dream Cat that I got through a JC conference. It's super tasty. I'm so excited to drink this.
For myself, I am on the Cornerman Red from Brew Detroit, and then I am also drinking, which it might be hard to see just because it's black on black on black, but How Many Skulls from Mothfire. So with that in mind, we are going to start with the news. In our chat, of course, you can join us live. We start at 7 p.m. Eastern Fridays. Gluten-free Brian, who is a guest on the show, is drinking a gluten-free stout and maybe some moonshine. It looks like he's having a fun night.
Yeah.
But as we start with the news, I am going to send it over to Rob. Rob, what story do you got for us today?
Oh, so the story that I have, actually, it's been a while since we got to the news. So this one is kind of dating back to last month, but I still feel like it's relevant. So I was keeping this one in here. So back in March, workers at City Brewing's Latrobe, Pennsylvania-based facility had returned to work after going on strike for a week. There was a new contract between city management and IUE CWA Locals 22 and 144 that was ratified like I said, back in March, after being tentatively agreed to a couple of days prior to that. And this was as reported by the Tribune Review out in Pennsylvania. Now, there was a 4-year contract passed with 78% of the vote of members from both local groups. Now, the IUE CWA Local 22 represents about 50 workers at the brewery, while the IUE CWA Local 144 represents about 145. And the strike actually came about after complaints that were being made by the Local 22 with allegations of city leadership making changes to the contract, refusing to furnish information, and changing terms or of conditions of employment. I really was not aware of this when I looked at this, prior to looking at this, but City Brewing is the nation's largest contract brewer, with a clientele the likes of Boston Beer and Pabst, having produced 32% of Boston Beer Co.'s shipment volume in 2021. Another fact about the location is that they can brew about 8 times a day, with batches averaging 525 barrels in volume. That's a lot of beer. So really with this article, it kind of got me thinking with a lot of, there seems to be a lot of union talk that is going on. Obviously, there was this issue going on with City Brewing. There's been an issue with Starbucks employees that have wanted to unionize. I was curious from your perspectives, would it do well for the brewing industry? Obviously, we have a whole bunch of small business brewers, mid-level brewers. I mean, obviously, there's all the different levels of brewers and numbers of employees. And, there's some that don't even have 20, let alone 50. But do you think there would be a benefit in brewery employees unionizing across a local area? We'll just say create like brewery districts where you have this metropolitan Detroit area, for example, where all of the employees of all of the local breweries in the area are in a union, and so forth, moving across regions, going across the state and across the country. I'm going to go with Dan on this one first.
So I don't know what kind of benefits can a can it actually bring to these smaller companies? I guess if it could bring them some benefit in some way, but I guess I don't know much about it as far as that goes. So, I don't know what unions can do for them. So I know unions help in bigger situations where you have a lot of employees, but what can it really do for a smaller group of them? Do they really have the leverage or the power to do anything for them?
I mean, I don't know if I guess that's the thing. I'm not sure. I guess I was trying to figure out like what would there be the benefit? I mean, other than kind of thinking benefits. I know there's a lot of breweries that are out there that supply health insurance, 401ks, and things of that nature. So I don't know, maybe something like being in a union to be able to have that provided. I'm not sure.
It's a tough one. Yeah, it's a tough one because these smaller companies, you have 10 employees, they may not want to deal with having a union in there. You know what I mean? So it might just end up being where they're just like, nah, y'all can go, instead of dealing with the union at that point. So it's tough to say what it could do for that small of an employment, like especially between these individual breweries.
So I guess that's the thing. Is it too small? I don't know. Ken, you look like you got something.
I mean, so I think first things first is the conversation is going to go one of two ways. If you're pro-union, you're going to be pro-union. If you're not, you're not. Like there is no like, oh, I'm kind of pro. Like there's a lot of half-asseries with people, especially local, who might be more against specific unions. Like you might have an issue with the teachers union or the UAW or, a specific union, but unionization as a whole, if there is a need for unionization, then yes, 1000% a union needs to come about. But the reason that a union would need to come about is the need of a union. Like you don't need a union until you need a union. My personal opinion, obviously. So if these breweries are not, if they're paying fair wages, if people are making their tips, if a lot of them are doing health insurance and, whatever other benefits, PTO, bereavement, what's the FMLA, all the if you're getting your benefits, you're getting your pay, you're careering, or you're making a stop, or you're getting a second job. Like if all these things are happening and there's no reason for you to have a union, or no reason for you to need a union, then there's no reason to. And I know a lot of people will come into the comments and they'll say something along the lines of, there are a lot of, if the time you don't think you need a union is the time you do need a union. But for me, it's the employees. If the employees want to unionize, then fucking go for it. 1000%. But if they don't, if everything's working the way they are, if they feel like they're getting their fair share of the profits, they're getting their fair share of hours, they're getting their fair share, there's no need for protection, like nothing's happened. Let's use, a great example I'll throw in there that doesn't have a union, that would 1000% become a union should they want it, and I will call it out by name, and that's Eastern Market Ferndale Project. They would allow a union to occur on their property with their staff if they wanted to unionize. But one thing we've noticed with this brewery group, is that they pay fair, they have great benefits, they do a lot for their employees, to the point where they don't probably feel like they need a union to represent them. In the chat, somebody is saying, having employees that are trained to a specific standard for a specific skill level and pay scale can be benefited from trade unions. And I agree. And there might be a spot for, say, a brewers union, like a trade segment of brewers within the state or brewers within the country. Because I have seen plenty of places that have looked for brewers that are paying like $30,000 a year, and you need better collective bargaining than that to try to get someone to take that kind of job. But that's just my opinion. That's just what I believe. Like I personally am 100% pro union, but I don't think everywhere needs a union. But I think when you need it, nothing should stop you. And I'll stop rambling, Dan.
Right. Wendy.
I don't know why I called Dan out. I just felt like
I know exactly why you called me out, but
So I'm gonna say yes, Ken. I agree with everything that you just said, except that you said you can't be wishy-washy when it comes to the unions, and I think that you can, because you just kind of made a wishy-washy statement. You were like, I'm pro-union, but if you don't need it, you shouldn't have to have it. That's kind of the same thing.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I got to interrupt. I apologize. I do my best not to do it. I know I do it a lot. It's just my personality, but I understand I try not to. If you want a union, you need a union. That is what I believe. That's my, like, I might have said a lot of things, but my statement is, if you want a union, you should have a union.
And that I agree with. I cannot say that I'm pro-union, because I also believe that if you're in a company that is paying the wages that you need and providing you the benefits that you need and treating you the way that you need to be treated, then you don't need a union. So I think it really is individual. It depends on the particular company that you're in, whether or not that union is needed. And that's all I'll say on that.
Okay. Well, Rob, what about you?
I mean, like I said, I really wasn't sure, because, Dan brought up a pretty fair point about, trying to understand what they need the union for. And I didn't go, I guess in my head, I didn't go that far big picture to think about that. And I think it's just kind of what you said, Ken, is that if employees want a union, then by all means go for it and create one. I kind of feel a little, I don't know, just a little apprehensive, just simply because of what happened with the whole Surly incident, and how their employees tried to unionize, and whether it's coincidence or not, they shut down the location. And some say that it shut down because it was COVID and there weren't enough people coming in, and they couldn't justify keeping it open for the expenses. And the people who were trying to create the union would say that they shut it down because we were trying to form a union. And it's at such a convenient time of when it happened that I don't know if we'll ever know which way it went. But it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they were able to, because I believe they did do a vote to try to unionize, and the vote failed. So it would have been interesting to see kind of, I don't know, just like a little bit more of a precedent to see what would have happened if they would have unionized, and maybe get like a glimpse of what they get out of it, and see what employees everywhere else could get. So like I said, it's if they wanted to unionize, hell yeah, go for it. If they don't, if they're being treated fairly, they're getting paid fairly, and they're not having any issues, then hey, everything is set, you're good, and you don't need to. But we'll leave it up to them to do it.
Well,
oh, go ahead, Wendy.
Go on, Wendy.
Did I just go wishy-washy?
No, go on, Wendy.
So one of the things that I have found, I work for a company where we have a portion of our staff is unionized. And one of the things that I have noticed that they provide that is definitely a bonus for the company and for the employees is training. They cover training that other companies don't allow and don't provide. So I think that's a good thing. We have talked extensively about the restaurant industry and how things need to change for the people that are working at the restaurants, and not just breweries, but the whole industry that industry as a whole. In my opinion, if there's any industry that needs a union, it might be the restaurants, the servers that are just being underpaid right now.
Do you think we should just put everyone together? Servers, waiters, staff, restaurant staff, and brewery and just like have them all in the union?
Well, I don't think for me necessarily, but I think that, I mean, it's something that they should look at. That's where unions come about. That's where they make their mark, is being able to standardize things in an industry. And this is definitely an industry that needs to see things change.
From quite a few different perspectives, I would agree with that.
You know, it's
way too many incidents these past few years.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, these last few years, there are a lot of different things just because, and I don't want to blame it on COVID, but a lot of it is because of COVID. And a lot of people have taken advantage because of COVID, which we might say with Surly, or we might say with a certain point of sale company out of Boston, Massachusetts. You know, we might say these things, but we don't know for sure. Now, as in our chat, and I'm very, very happy Brian decided to watch us live tonight, which go check out Groundbreaker. Oh my God, he's going to kill me if I was wrong. It was Groundbreaker, right?
Yes, it is Groundbreaker.
Yeah, Groundbreaker. It sounded right in my head.
You were there. You were there. You had it.
But I'm like, is it Gluten Breaker? Is it?
It's Gluten Breaker. That's.
I mean, that's a great name for a gluten-free brewery.
Gluten Breaker.
You know, he's in our chat. Go check out his previous episode. You can find it on YouTube and of course iTunes, Spotify, all that fun stuff. And he said something that kind of resonated a little bit. And let's take it back to Tracy Rashad Evans over at Founders. They're not unionized. There was a huge issue, and there wasn't really any proper worker representation. Now, up until then, employees at Founders may not have believed they needed a union, but when you have a colors printer, and a whites only printer,
allegedly,
when you have those types of things, somebody had a sound go on. When you have those types of things, that's when you need employee representation. You need someone who's going to protect the employee and not HR, who's looking in the best interest of the company, because that's what HR does. HR is in the best interest of the company, not in the best interest of you.
Are you saying HR is not your friend? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm 100% saying HR is not my friend. I had, which blows my mind now, and I'm going to tell you guys the story. I know we're going on a tangent, and I know we're going long on this So I had the idea of like boosting employee morale. After hours, having like a cocktail hour at the site, and I got almost written up for that. And then I go work for the next organization that has a fucking keg and full bar in the office. And I'm just like, I go from one extreme to the other, and I'm like, this was supposed to be after hours and everyone's over 21. And, you know, it kind of just blew my mind how I'm like, I asked HR, I'm like, you know, I would like to do this for my staff to boost morale. I'd like to do like a after hours, just cocktail reception. Everyone just kind of like relaxes, has fun, and takes a load off while still building relationships. And sure as shit, she went and told my boss, and my boss almost wrote me up. You know, I needed employee representation, and instead HR's, you know, snitching on me. What's funny too is that she asked me.
I think that depends on your HR.
She asked me for a referral like a decade later too. And I'm like, get out of here.
Nice.
I'm still bitter, and it's been over 10 years probably now. If anybody else has anything else to say, feel free to do it. If not, I am going to pass it over to Wendy for her article.
Yes.
All right. So last week we talked about some different numbers in the beer industry that had come out from the Brewers Association. And I found an article that was actually a little bit older. It was from March 28th. Kevin McGee, who is the president and CEO of Anderson Valley Brewing Company, had an article on Rolling Stone's website called Trend Spotting in 2022, an insider's take on the quiet revolution going on in craft beer. And he made a few observations about things that have happened pre-COVID, during COVID, and what's going on in the beginning of this year. But there were two things that he basically called out as what's going to happen this year. And I kind of wanted to get your guys' take on it. The first one was that craft breweries are getting back to fundamentals. And for a lot of them, that means the West Coast IPA. He said, I propose an expert with time on their hands create the West Coast IPA release index so that those of us in the industry can all follow it in real time. And he said, yes, there will still be slime beers and exploding smoothies, but there will be fewer breweries relying on them as foundational revenue. So I thought it was interesting that he specifically called out the West Coast IPA. Have you guys noticed that showing up more and more at breweries around us?
First off, I want to know where these exploding smoothies are at. That's what I really want to see more than anything.
Oh, 450 North.
I've seen plenty of them.
Smooge has been holding okay.
Smooge
There's been a couple
fine,
that have come out though.
But
Really?
I believe it's 450 North that had like an entire like multitude of different cans that exploded. And I remember they recently announced how they fixed a lot of their issues with additional fermentation while in the can, which created these, because they're having so much fruit in these beers, like actual fruit and not fruit flavor. So I remember 450 North came out with a comment, I believe, and I remember Chicago Beer Blog, I think, came out with a TikTok that said, congratulations, you just did what everybody else has been managing to do for 100 years, make shelf-stable beer. But yeah, that's my little anecdote.
It's hard when they add a lot of real fruit to it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I guess now going to the West Coast IPAs now, Eastern Market Brewing actually just put one on in celebration of 420. I'm sorry, 420. It's their West Coast Hemp IPA. And, I have pretty much have said that I don't like West Coast IPAs because they are
Bad.
way too piney. There's way too much resin. And it's just, I don't need this hot bomb. But, in my own true style with Eastern Market, every beer that they put up, I'm trying them all. And tried it. I still don't like the style. I honestly don't know what they can do to West Coast IPAs that are going to get me to like them. I just hope that, with the whole thing of going back to fundamentals, that I can just get a regular ass pale ale, or I can get a regular ass IPA.
So I've seen more of that.
Just give me a regular amber. So.
Isn't the whole difference between a West Coast and a New England is the West Coast puts the hops in the boil, and the New England they come in after in secondary? I think that's the whole difference between the two. So you like them to add the hops after post boil into the secondary to get that flavor versus throwing it right in?
Yeah, because it's just, it reminds me, basically, it is just so piney. Like all it does is just remind me of up north. And we know I don't go up north.
Up north to you is like 12 miles. So, what kind of IPAs are they making at 12 mile, Rob?
No, it is M59 for those who are local. Everything north of M59 is up north. And I just
Pontiac IPA.
I don't. It's like when I went out to Portland, and I'm going to go back out to Portland, Oregon next month, and going into the store, and all I see are IPAs, and they're like, "Hey, is there something I can help you with?" And I said, "Yeah, I want a beer that doesn't taste like I have a fucking pine cone in my mouth the entire time," and that's what a West Coast IPA is to me. It's just like, why don't I just squirrel up and just eat one of these fucking things?
What,
I don't just feel like the hops punched me in the face.
Right. I don't need to get punched in the face by hops. It's just not me. So, if West Coast IPA comes back, everybody enjoy it, have fun, and enjoy it. It's just, I will not be a part of that revolution.
I will say that when I was in Seattle, I had a few IPAs that were West Coast IPAs that I definitely enjoyed. I really think it does have to do with the hop and which hop they're using.
I feel like you can just strain pour them all, but let me know when that revolution starts. I'll help pour all those bitches down the drain.
Lord.
maybe we need to start a trend of West Michigan, because we got the long coastline, West Michigan Coast IPA, and
Coast.
do it with what's a good Michigan hop, like a Centennial or a Chinook or something like that, and there you go. We got a West Michigan Coast IPA. Because we just got to be a homer.
I bet we could find one of those out there.
I'm sure it exists. All we got to do is just go to try to think. What's a West Coast IPA house in Michigan? Who makes piney as fuck IPAs in Michigan these days?
Royal Oak Brewery used to. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, but
it still does.
I mean, as much as the Rob does that, it's definitely more true to style than just trying to be a trendsetter. Like Royal Oak Brewery, you can walk in there and still get like an English mild and alt beer and an IPA all in the same day, and I'd be happy because the first two.
Like I said, they can enjoy those IBUs. I'm not gonna shit on the beer, except if you try to put it in my face and make me drink it.
Can we retire IBUs now, because it's such a worthless number these days?
It used to be the only thing. Yeah, it used to be the only thing people thought of.
Only thing.
But you could get a fucking American brown, and the IBUs will be tiny, and it'll be piney as fuck. And you can go get some juicy, hazy IPA with 110 IBU, and it's going to taste like fucking Sunkissed.
Fair. All right.
With that, I'm going to move on to the second point that he made in the article.
Sorry, Wendy.
It was that the meaning of the craft beer label continues to erode. So he said the definitions craft brewery and craft beer have become entirely confused, and the importance of the craft label has eroded. Craft beer has generally been defined as beer made by a craft brewer, and that's where the problem is. As the industry has evolved, the old definition of a craft brewery as a brewery that is small and independent got muddy. Is ownership by a private equity firm with a 3-year investment harvest horizon more independent than being owned by a large brewery corporation? And I think that's kind of important, looking at some of the mergers and acquisitions that we've seen just here in Michigan. So I'm wondering what your guys' take on that is.
So for a second, I thought this was, you had mentioned it at the beginning, but this was some person writing some op-ed, but instead it's Kevin McGee, the president and CEO of Anderson Valley Brewing Company. I am 100% going to say, back on episode 1, we had this discussion. You can go on our YouTube page, you can find it. It's the Michigan Brewers Guild with Eric Brigham. And he said there is a difference between craft and crafty. And now, 200 some odd episodes later, we have understood the fact that one, independent is the term that matters the most to a lot of people. 2, even that term gets so muddled because when you take the 2 top ones, which is Dogfish Head / Boston Beer Co. and Yingling, 2 huge ones, followed by everyone else, as well as all of the, not collaborations, the groupings of breweries. I don't know, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but like Canarchy and Duvel and...
The conglomerates of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, conglomerates has like such a negative connotation.
Yeah, it's kind of too corporate, but
I wouldn't say Canarchy is a conglomerate as much as just a collaboration of breweries.
A craft umbrella.
Craft umbrella. That's good. But like episode 5, when we had the Craft Check app guys on, this was before the Craft Boom hit. We know that the craft beer industry is muddled, and I don't know if he's just trying to just state the obvious or he just learned it. But I just, if you don't know what craft beer is now, I don't know what to tell you, but in the same sense, which beers are craft beers. Like there really isn't what's that blue raspberry beer that was just just tastes like fucking Tussin. That was an Anheuser-Busch beer. Wild Blue? Do you guys not know what I'm talking about?
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my
Thankfully,
God.
no.
I tend not to buy anything that has Budweiser on it, though. So,
but you wouldn't have noticed it because it would have been just like the like Killian's, because you wouldn't have known Killian's as Molson Coors if you're just a standard everyday kind of person.
That's true.
Just as much as how many bars say Killian's is imported, or craft.
They call it craft where I'm from.
So yeah, there is a. There were some muddled at the beginning, like 2010 to 2015, I say, but now, I mean, I don't think there's really any, most of those places like Shock Top and Leinenkugels, or Leinenkugels is Molson Coors, isn't it? Those organizations definitely fill their umbrella. So if you're going to bitch about Elysian being Anheuser-Busch, whatever, they're not, it's Elysian, it's Goose Island, it's Atwater, they're not trying to be Anheuser-Busch. They are what they are. I'm talking and I should be trying to find this fucking beer because it's really annoying.
You look for that beer, and I'm going to tell you my last point that he said that really stood out to me in the article. He said the optics, behavior, and ownership structures of some craft brewers have begun looking an awful lot like the macro brewery brands that were such a vivid counterpoint to the craftiness of craft. This undermines the impact of calling something craft and has been helped along by the macros acquiring some of their own craft brands.
But, it's like the craft brands, yeah, they're craft, they're independent, but they're trying to make money.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
How else are they going to make money unless they make themselves appealing in a way that I don't want to say like gives off that air of macro, but macro has been successful. They continue to be successful. They're not falling off of a bridge anytime soon. Some of that success that they have is, I think, it just rubs off on the other breweries, and they, in a way, have to mimic that to like what are they going to do? What else are they going to do? They have to do something to make money.
We have a definition of craft, but are you going to sit here and tell me that Goose Island, Bourbon County, West Livet 12 barrel aged birthday stout is not craft beer? Bullshit.
I mean,
according to a lot of people, they will scream that.
According to a lot of people, it's not. And that's something that even before we interviewed Goose Island, I might have been one of those people who said, oh, I'm not going to buy that anymore because they sold out. Until I talked to them and actually learned a little bit about what was going on, I might not have known that it's still the same people making the beer. It's still those same people out of Chicago living there, doing their thing, making the beer, and they just have a bigger umbrella for marketing for them.
Is it craft is the question. And I believe the Brewers Association did it correct by changing the name of craft to independent. Because what people cared about is it independent? Yes.
I agree with that.
Is it craft? Again, if you're going to sit here and tell me that fucking, I'm trying to think of a random Wicked Weed. Holy shit. Anything at Wicked Weed's Funkatorium is not craft beer. Bullshit. Sorry, bullshit. Right. Are you going to tell me it's not?
The same thing can be said about Sam Adams.
But that's the thing, too, is that the same people who will bitch about Elysian not being craft will also say Sam Adams isn't craft or Yingling isn't craft. Even though, because everyone would be like, oh, well, the Brewers Association changed their rules to allow for them to be craft. I mean, no, bullshit. Yingling built up in a fucking giant-ass industry behind them. Sam Adams, one of the very few brewers we still have not talked to on this show.
We've tried.
We're getting there.
Pretty close.
Spoiler alert, it's going to happen sooner or later.
I just think back to the Jim Cope email days when we were trying to get a hold of him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, you can't sit here. We are a craft beer podcast, but we've talked to 10th and Blake. We've talked to Goose Island. Like, we've talked to massive breweries because they are craft beer. Don't fucking tell me Atwater is not craft beer. You might hate them. You might think other words for them, but they're craft. Independent?
It's just
no. I'll give you that.
Right.
That's why when I thought this person was talking that you brought up the article, I thought he was like just some op-ed person writing a thing on Rolling Stone, but instead, no, it's a person who works for Anderson Valley, which we know Anderson Valley very well, and it just blows my mind that that's still the sentiment. Maybe that's old guard talking. Maybe that's
he's not new to the industry.
No, maybe that's just old guard, old gatekeeping craft beer type of personality, because we know Blue Moon is not craft beer anymore. Like, people know this, but they drink it because.
But if you go to the brewery, you see that they are very much still craft.
Oh, the Blue Moon Brewery. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like all the I mean, I have a picture. I'm pretty sure I posted it on our website or on our social media about all the different beers that we had when we were there. We probably had 30 different beers between the four of us that are not the Blue Moon beer that you see in the store, because they have way more than just Belgian white.
I'm just gonna, like, for me, and I'll end it here. Anybody else can talk, but I'll end my rant portion of everything, because I'm definitely on it today. My soapbox is tall and I am screaming large. No, these breweries, like, it doesn't matter. It just, if you like it, it's a good beer.
Yeah.
North Center Brewing, Northville, Michigan. If you
Episode
like it,
2.
it's a good beer.
Episode 2, check it out.
That's just all it is. Like, you can't gatekeep anymore, because if you gatekeep someone from trying to drink Blue Moon, they'll never fucking drink Brew Detroit. They'll never drink any, they'll never go to Bell's Oberon.
True story.
You say, oh, Killian's, ugh, then they'll never fucking try Corner Man. And this beer is amazing, but they'll never try it because you were like, oh, well, you're just drinking big beer. So instead, I'm going to go drink $2 pints of Bud Light somewhere.
I got nothing.
That's it.
That was it. That was good enough for me right there. I'm good.
It's
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely this 11% beer that's hitting me pretty hard.
Boom.
What's next, Ken?
What's next for beer or what's next for articles?
Yeah, what's next for beer, first off?
I got nothing. I'm not drinking anything else on this show. Everything else will be post-show for sure. My article, on the other hand, Athletic Brewing is partnering with a company called Ariba, I believe, to make a non-alcoholic michelada called non-alcochelada, or Chelada Nada. There we go. So they're going to be making a non-alcoholic michelada available on shelves. This is going to be basically a non-alcoholic version of a michelada available for people. Bevmo, HEB is going to be able to get it. Chelada Nada is available in Texas, Arizona, and South Carolina. And it's going to be direct to consumers on their website. Obviously, we can't get it here in Michigan. But my question to Dan, I guess, on this show, if you're watching the video, is just him and I. Dan.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic RTDs, do you think we could get them? Do you think that's a segment that could populate with the way that a single non-alcoholic brewery like Athletic can become a top 25 brewery in the country?
I don't know. Non-alcoholic RTD, who's really going to drink that? I mean, I don't know what goes into that. So I know nothing about non-alcoholic spirits or what you do with them or even how they taste, because I'm just like, what's the point?
So there's plenty of non-alcoholic spirits like Monday and Seedlip and Ritual for like whiskey or gin, and I'm using air quotes here on the camera. If you guys can't watch it if you're watching the podcast, go check out the YouTube. So, but the thing is that you're expecting the flavor. So if you could get me a gin and tonic, so basically a juniper flavor and tonic, you might go and you drink it, because one, there's a huge population of you have religious people who don't drink. You have recoveries who may look for a drink that want the flavor. You have, look at me. I wasn't able to drink due to medical reasons for 7 months, 8 months. And I didn't fucking want the booze. I wanted the taste. I wanted the flavor. And I think folks that are in our age bracket are more geared towards flavor as opposed to, intoxication per dollar. So you laugh, but you know what
I
I'm
laugh.
saying.
No, I know exactly. You're right. That's why I'm laughing. And it's like, yeah, I used to think that way, but that's something I moved away from, looking for the cheapest drink to get that's the strongest for the most value.
Yeah, are wells $1 a drink, and you're going to drink 4 at a time? Or, are you going to go and be like, because remember when we were given the opportunity to drink or drink good, we drank good. When we were at Luna, which was a local bar in Royal Oak, and it was $2 Eucalypts, our choice was $2 for literally any drink in the bar, and we're drinking 2 Hardeds and Amber Ales from Bell's.
Yep. Or the good old Ciroc, yeah.
We were drinking because we wanted the flavor, we wanted the quality, we wanted that, and not necessarily because of the price, but that's just, hey, this is the price, this is what you're going to get. We liked the flavor more than the price. So
you did not go the direction I thought you were going to go when you brought up Luna.
Oh. Was it free drink night? Because we used to go for free drink night too.
Well, I was thinking about the fact that we used to drink Long Island's at City Club because it was $5, and
oh, that was a whole different game. That was drinking double fisting the pitchers of Budweiser and hitting people over the head with them when they're empty. That was that kind of situation.
That's also,
well, I never did that.
A different facility, because that place was open till 4, as well as there was the diner that was in front that you could continue to sober up before you went home. So you might have been drinking intoxication per dollar, I think is the phrase that I used. But I
was there a few years before you too.
I mean, I was probably, but I was still there at 2004. So Dan brought me young.
Yeah.
Here we go. Drinking in the parking structure. I can at least date myself to the parking structure.
Yeah.
So that's dating.
Parking structure.
Oh yeah.
We still had to enter through the pool.
Oh, that's definitely before
when I was going.
But for me, do you guys think that non-alcoholic RTDs, so basically, probably flavored seltzers, flavored, I would love for me, if you could figure out a way to get me a non-energy drink version, and this is going to be funny to y'all, of a fucking Red Bull and vodka, non-alcoholic, non-caffeinated Red Bull and vodka, I'd be down. I loved my Red Bull and vodkas, and I don't know what I'm going to do, because I haven't gone to Vegas since I gave up energy drinks.
Oh boy.
And that would be my 6 and 7 a.m. drink of choice when I'm playing Pai Gow at the table. But do you think, as Athletic brings out their NA Michelada, an NA RTD category, can it exist anywhere? And I'm going to start with Rob.
I mean, it can exist. It definitely can exist. It just
succeed.
I don't know.
Succeed.
Can it succeed? Kind of looking back to what was it? Was it Budweiser that came out with the Micheladas? And I was like, there was a couple other brands that came out.
Yeah,
with it.
Budweiser had like a tall boy too of it.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't necessarily poison the well when Athletic puts this out. I don't know. It kind of seems, I think it could work. I don't know how big the market is going to be for it, considering, where the market share is for non-alcoholic right now. I mean, it's still kind of, obviously numbers throughout, whether alcoholic or non-alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic beer, seltzer, numbers are down all the way throughout. So I think it could pull something. I think it's going to be one of those things where it needs to stay in the region. It needs to probably stay somewhere southwest in the country, keep it down there, see what happens, and then, branch it out in 2023 and take it really slow, because I don't know, as I think as successful as the NA beers that Athletic has made, which I haven't had a bad one from them yet, that I think it could definitely pass the litmus test. But a Michelada, not necessarily my thing. I don't need a non-alcoholic salsa.
You don't like your Clamato?
Right. I don't want a drink that I could actually potentially put on nachos. I don't like, people enjoy it. It's just that's I wouldn't say that's up there with the West Coast IPAs, but it's not my taste. So, but I think it's something like, just keep it where Micheladas are generally popular, and and let it grow from there. And yeah, I think it can succeed if they do it something like that, instead of like going like complete full national distros. I don't know what would happen with that. My thoughts.
Dan, we've been chatting for a minute, and yeah. I know you have an article. What do you want to talk about?
I do. So this caught my attention today. I thought it was pretty interesting. A consortium of 6 global keg supply chain companies announced today that the formation of the Steel Keg Association, a marketing-focused nonprofit with the goal of increasing the volume of beer and other beverages served via stainless steel keg, was formed. Basically, the beer industry, they feel, needs to take advantage of the moment and make sure that we are not losing momentum to wine and spirits, because the people are going to be there in bars and restaurants, the founder said. Basically, what they're getting at is they think pushing beer in kegs is the way to go moving forward. They feel like they're losing out against spirits and wine currently, because as we were just talking about, beer is on a downswing versus some of these other beverages like RTDs, wine, even the non-alcoholics are starting to move into there. Interesting thing they said when I was reading this, when you see a tap wall that is half empty, that's a signal to the customer that that may not be a winning category, as those have been filling up and look the way it's supposed to. Those have not been filling up and look the way it's supposed to for a perfect showcase of beer. So, this really got me thinking, so if you're not going to a tap house, somewhere that's got 40, 50, 60, whatever kegs they have or whatever taps they have, how are you going to push keg sales versus, bottles, cans, when, say, your normal bar is going to have 4 or 5, maybe 6 taps, where they're already going to have your Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, Mick Ultra, things like that? How can you possibly push getting more beer via draft when you just don't have the capacity? I feel like they're a little short-sighted with this, because you're just going to try and push out these restaurants or these bars who are serving in bottles and cans, and they don't have the capacity to actually increase the number of kegs that they have on tap without a huge expense to them. So I'm curious what you guys think. Are they going down the right path with trying to push kegs more, or are they a little bit short-sighted like I think?
Damn.
Yeah, man. It's a tough one. It really is. And, the show, is called Better on Draft. And I agree with that. Beer a lot of times is better on tap, but how do you push that into a bar that has 5 taps and ask them to take off PBR when they're going through kegs like that, like crazy, for other options?
Well, is it saying craft beer or draft beer?
So draft beer. So maybe I'm reading into it more than they actually talk about, but trying to push more kegs in general onto bars that have limited capacity to do that is going to not really work out so well in the end.
I feel like the death of the poorhouse is about to take its final nail. I think unless you have a shtick like Detroit Beer Exchange, or you have a solid foundation like Brown Iron Brewhouse, I think you're gonna look in and like a 16 tap set is going to be the standard, the base, and no more, no less. Like the less places are going to be reserved for your Moose Lodges, your VFWs, your places, your dive bars that only you're going to have like a 4 to 8 tap setup. But like 16 is going to be the max. There's still plenty of places for you to put in the 16 barrels. And if you have a proper knowledge of the industry, I think you could pull it off to where, you know what? You take the Killians off for a week and you put on Bell's Amber. Or you take Blue Moon off and you put on, Bell's Oberon. I don't know why I keep going to Bell's, but that's just how it went. You take off Killian's and you put Bobby English on from North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan. Like, there are ways for you to do it where you can push it, but I don't think we're going to see. I don't know. I think as people get back into, because you can get bottles at home, you can get cans at home. Not many people have a fucking kegerator at home. Therefore, when you go to a bar, I think you're going to start leaning more towards the draft beer. I think you're going to start looking at draft beer a little bit more. I think you're going to start looking at your draft beer options a little bit more. Because I can go home and I can go, whatever you sell on draft, I can go home and get it in a can or a bottle. So why would I buy it in a can or a bottle, though? Like, whatever you have in a can or a bottle, I definitely can get in a can or a bottle. And since we believe beer is better on draft, I think people, as they get back into the bars, get back into hanging out publicly. I don't agree to the levels that they are saying on this Brewbound article that you posted. But yeah, I think I don't think you're really pushing draft beer on the bar as much as I feel like the consumer wants draft beer again. I mean, what about Rob? I'm gonna bring it to you because I know you have definitely been a little bit more at home. You haven't necessarily gone out too much. Obviously, you've got 84 kids. But for you, when you're going out and you're hosting trivia, you're going towards the drafts, aren't you?
I mean, that's basically what is there. I mean, at both of my locations is that, it is, especially with my my Monday show.
Well, let's say you're going to Herman's.
Yeah,
that's a craft beer bar.
It is pretty much yes, that is a craft beer bar. They still sell their fair share of Miller, Coors, PBR, but they do their best to highlight all of their craft selections, and they don't really do anything where. And I guess the thing I was thinking was like with all of these kegs, as you're taking them on and putting some off, taking some on, that you should start doing some wacky things like Wednesday nights is Bobby English night. We're just like it's gonna be whatchamacallit, it's gonna be $3 a pint, and we're just gonna hit all of that, and then just like switch it back to like some odd side my mocha. I don't know, but Herman's does put on quite a few of their craft beers, and almost every week there is, I would probably say maybe 4 different kegs. There are some things that are always on. One of which, of course, is Red Rye from Charlotte Street Brewing, which of course goes by their other name. And there's a couple bells that they have, but they do put on a lot of kegs. There's stuff from Untitled Arts. There's stuff from Drafting Table. There's stuff from Eastern Market. witch's hat. It just goes all the way throughout. So they put on quite a bit, and it obviously it gets drank. So I would think that it. I don't know. Part of me does think that this is a bit short-sighted because, yeah, we're getting endemic in a way, but the people who used to have to go out post-COVID now see that they really don't have to go any fucking where. And we're going to stay home. I'm going to get my shit from DoorDash, and I've got my beer here. I don't need to go out. So there's still kind of, I think, that contingency, that population to deal with, where there's going to be still a good chunk of people who no longer is going to be going out anymore.
So would you say that like off-premise sales are still going to stay high with the people not going out anymore, but on-premise will probably lead more towards draft versus bottle and can? Would that be a fair statement?
That would be a fair statement.
Dan?
I think that would be a fair statement.
This is your article.
One more time. Ask it again. I'm sorry. I was reading something in
That's okay. I know how much you don't care about this show.
Terrible.
Off-premise is going to still stay at a higher level than pre-COVID, but on-premise draft will be higher than bottle and can.
That's a good question. Do we have numbers that showed? I'm looking through here and I don't see anything about that. What the numbers were like pre-COVID?
This is one time where I probably could have gone and asked Bart. I was about to say Bart Starr.
Bart Starr, the old quarterback.
Yep.
What's his take on this?
Bart Watson over at the Brewers Association, and ask him, and maybe I'll try to reach out before we post this show. But yeah, we do not have numbers.
So I'm curious because you think the tap house is dying. Out here, it's exploding. They're opening up left and right. It feels like
hold on. When I say tap house, I'm referring to a true poorhouse, 100 plus.
So
Hopcat.
Your Hopcat, your West 50, there's all over the country, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so there are a lot of places like that. They may not have 100, but when we're talking 80, 75 in there, they are opening up. It feels like every month out here. So there are quite a few. Yeah, and I think we talked about that before, where it seems to be dying up there. It's kind of a big thing out here still. So, I mean, maybe it's about the same, at least if I look at it from what I see out here. Those places are packed again like they were in December of 2019. So I don't know if it's grown, but it's definitely staying the same. It's tough to say.
We're running up against time. Wendy, I want to know your opinion.
On what? Which opinion do you want me?
Just give us an opinion.
Do I think that poorhouses are going out of style? No, I think that we're going to see, maybe yes, the 100 plus. I don't think we'll ever see that because I think that trend came up pretty quick and we saw so many of them just not be able to go through those kegs fast enough that it just didn't go well. So, but I do think that we will still continue to see, like, I think there's one that just opened up downriver, and there's other places that we can go to that we can still get multiple beers on draft. And I don't know about you guys, but when I go out, I like to try a bunch of different stuff. So I like the fact that it's on draft just because I can get it in different sizes. So I can try a smaller size and see if I actually like it. And I can maybe have 5 or 6 different smaller sizes instead of having 1 or 2 big beers while I'm out for the night. And I think a lot of people will continue to go with that trend just because we haven't been out for so long.
We have one final question from the chat. Tito Hoffman wanted to ask. We'll go through all this and then we'll end the show. And I'm curious what it'll be like between Detroit and Arizona. Will we see keg taps come back to the beer store? And will we be able to fill a growler at a store anytime soon? Let's pretend COVID is now quote unquote the flu, and we are just at a yearly COVID strain. Are we going to see taps back at the beer store? Like Zutuna Liquor carried it, Holiday carried it. What was that place in Warren that used to carry really good craft beer? They were like the first people to start selling draft beer in growlers too. I can't think of the name of it. It's over by Coonan. How come you guys aren't helping me here?
Because I have no idea.
8 degrees?
No, it's not 8 degrees.
No.
This was in Warren. This was over at like 13
so it's 8
and a
degrees.
half. No, there's no 8 degrees in Warren. There's 8 degrees in Ferndale, and there's 8 degrees in Detroit. Come on, Wendy, you're better than this.
I don't remember one in
when we went to Coonan's, we went to 8 degrees.
I mean, I live next door basically to 8 degrees in Ferndale, so I know the one you're talking about.
There's
I
8
do
degrees at Ferndale and 8 degrees in Detroit. I
did say I don't
know where we went in Warren then, but we were at Coonan's before we went there.
I can't remember the store, but I'll figure it out by the time Rob finishes talking. So go, Rob.
All right. So pretty much, and there are a couple other stores because I know obviously 8 Degrees Detroit. I think they still do it. And there's actually a store not that far from me in Livonia called Beer Baron. That, as far as I know, they still do those because they still have the board lit up with different beers in there. As far as some of them coming back, I kind of don't feel Holiday is going to bring theirs back, even though I thought their selection was always top notch. Shout out to Ashley, who's obviously not there anymore, but he would always put on some pretty damn good beers. There was another one that I was thinking of that doesn't do it anymore, but it could, and that could actually help with getting those kegs pushed out. That maybe it'll come back, but I think it might still be too soon. This might be like a 2024 thing where these really start to come back, where everyone really feels like things are kind of back to like fully back to normal, and we're just it's like you said, Ken, we're just have the standard strain where it's basically like a flu shot every year. So I think it's still.
Why did you say every year? People are going to flip out.
Because that's what the flu shot is every year. It's just the flu strain changes. It's just what it is.
Was it Champagne's? Champagne's over on Chicago? Yes, I believe it was.
Is that over by Coonan's?
Yes.
Yes, then that's the place that I went.
It's a giant ass store. It was kind of huge, like right before the craft beer hit. Yeah, Champagne's wine cellars used to have draft beer, used to have craft beer, used to have everything. They are closed. That was annoying. Also, talking about previous, the beer that I was talking about, the blue raspberry beer, was called Wild Blue by Anheuser-Busch, which is a fruit beer. Apparently, it's got a 3.1 out of 5 on Untapped, which is a perfect score for a lager. That's going to do it. The new segment, Better on Draft 422. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's... I want to say thank you so much, Tito and Brian, for joining in the chat. Better on Draft. Have a good night.